some pundits are talking about 100 new people down there. And 100 new people can make a big difference. You know, I'm a veteran. I had an opportunity to attend some veteran training for campaigning from an organization called Veterans Campaign, and sponsored also by George Washington University. And I spent some time down there talking to other people, over 100 veterans in that organization, in that audience rather, half a dozen or more congressional candidates. And I said, wow, we're all talking about the same thing. We're all talking about putting America in the same direction. I said, we must all be Republicans. But I found out, interestingly, that we weren't. It was about 50-50 as a matter of fact. But what I was encouraged by was that people, veterans in this, that's a cross-section of people who are veterans, who don't like to stand their ground, who like to move forward, who like to advance, all look at putting America first and trying to do the right things for America. So what's going to happen come January? We're going to have a bunch of new people down there. I think they're going to be sent down there to make America move first. And they're going to become a very important voting bloc in Washington, and very powerful. And I think we're going to take a look at those who are entrenched in Washington from both sides of the aisle, and they're going to look at this election in 2010 and say, boy, there, but through the grace of God go I just dodged a bullet, and maybe I need to move this nation forward as well. So we're going to make motion on Obamacare. We're going to enter into a national debate of which we can be proud for a change. And we're going to do the right thing for America.
Let me just touch upon something briefly that my friend said when he began a moment ago about taxes. He's right. We would all like more withholding to be kept for ourselves. But there's something else to understand here that is really important. And that is the debt from the war in Iraq is our debt too. The debt from the war in Afghanistan is our debt. He spoke of veterans care. That's our obligation too. You can't create 500,000 new veterans and think you're not going to take care of them down the road. You can't ask them to serve in Afghanistan and Iraq and come back and cut back on the obligation that you have when you sent them. I understand this argument. It's our money. But it's also the consequence of actions that were taken to get us to the point of where we are. Now, I don't think there's going to be a repeal of pre-existing condition. I don't think there's going to be a repeal of letting your children stay on your health insurance until they're 26. I don't think there's going to be a repeal of capping out-of-pocket expenses. I don't think that there's going to be a repeal of ending lifetime benefit exhaustion. The plan goes into effect in 2014. There is time to sand the edges, but not to refrain from the commitment of getting all members of the American family into the actuarial reality that the only way that you're going to control costs is to avoid the very expensive way of caring for people with a toothache or an earache in an emergency room. And that's what's happened. People end up in the emergency room and they don't have health insurance. And guess who pays for it? All of you and me and my friend. It's added to your private plan. It is added to the plan that the Waters Corporation has. It's called uncompensated care. That's what you need to pay attention to, is the reality of what actuaries will tell you about risk aversion and how to handle it and how to respond using the free market with the understanding that this was not a government takeover of health insurance.
Okay, switching gears to the banking world. Overregulation is a huge problem for our local community banks who do not participate in the problems created by the national leaders. What will you do to correct this?
By and large, the community bankers didn't have any problem. And incidentally, they're supporting me in this campaign. They couldn't have been any better in this campaign. In fact, what's striking about this campaign is that the business community is supporting me virtually everywhere. because of many of the common sense positions that we've taken. How do you regulate and not over-regulate? That's the issue. Some might argue, I think, with some reason, that one of the reasons that the community bankers did not get themselves into trouble is because they are regulated. Trying to strike that balance of addressing what happened with the big guys on Wall Street is part of this problem. Now, I don't think there's anybody who would argue that we should let the people on Wall Street continue to do what they were doing when you took almost 1/6 of the American economy over the side. And again, my argument today, it's the people that walked out the door with the riches after they ran these companies into the ground. That's what we tried to respond to. Another part of the problem the community banker has right now is this issue of what to do with foreclosures. My argument has been, let the 50 state attorneys general sort these issues and on a case-by-case basis, try to work it through. I think that's the reasonable position. The community bankers are in a tough spot. You have money to lend, you're looking for credit-worthy customers, and we have tried through the Small Business Act to give you a boost. But I don't think that there's anybody here today that's a symbol that would make the argument that we ought to go back to the way things were that got us into this trouble. You need to understand what these sophisticated financial instruments were. Collateralized debt obligations, the application of derivatives, the idea that a mortgage default in America would have a virus effect in Norway. These mortgages were packaged, securitized, and sold off in bulk across the globe. Trying to find out even where the argument begins is going to be difficult. So I argued for personal responsibility, and at the same time, to make sure that fraud was not perpetrated in the process of foreclosure, and letting these attorney generals do their work. We have done work through small business to try to encourage more lending, and we value the role that the community banker, and by the way, that the credit union plays every single day. And if you think that there are battles between Republicans and Democrats, you have no idea what the battles are between credit unions and community bankers. And guess what? They're all supporting me in this campaign because I've struck the necessary time and balance in trying to address the issues that they have.
When we go back to the conversation about this incredible crisis, financial crisis that was created, some of the roots of this crisis, I think we'd all agree, was around home mortgages and the accessibility of those home mortgages to people who should not have been able to afford them. And there was a letter written in 2004 supported by many members of Congress, written to President Bush at the time. Congressman Neal was a signer of that one, which said that affordability and security should be secondary to home ownership. I believe that mindset helped to open a floodgate of mortgages sent out to people who should never have had access to them. And that is a root cause and a consequence, or the root cause of the consequence that happened, which was a tremendous banking system failure. And part of the reason why we're having such a long and difficult road out of into recovery has to do with the fact that we were borrowing like crazy against overinflated home values. We were flipping houses, we were getting home equity loans, and now what? Our houses have lost their value. Maybe they come down to the proper value. But the fact of the matter is the dynamo of all of that was bad housing lending decisions by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and the regulation hasn't done a thing to change that. So as far as community banking is concerned, as far as I understand, and I'm not a community banking expert, they behave well, and they pay their share. And in fact, they're being asked to pay more, and they're being saddled with more fees, and more taxes, and more levies, and paying in advance. And all of that comes out of not just the bank's pocket, but your pocket. So when you go to ask a bank for a service, whether it be lending or something else, you're not getting a loan, you're not getting a return on your investment, and because it's costing them more money to do business and taking money out of your pocket.
Okay. Once again, switching gears, trying to cover the whole spectrum here. On education, giving the push